G'day, Stu here from UAVfutures, and today, yep, it's happening. We're going to be checking out, finally, the Taranis qx7, and what we're going to be looking at specifically, is this the best first-time radio that you can buy? So if you're just coming into the hobby, is this one a good choice, or how's it going to stack up compared to its competitor, I guess its main sort of rival, the Turnigy Evolution? So the qx7 versus the Evolution. Now this is sort of going to be a bit of a review and an overview of everything that comes with the qx7. We're going to be sticking it on the bench, breaking it down, talking about all its features, and then I guess we'll be comparing it quite a lot to this Turnigy Evolution radio that I've got right here. And if you're interested, you can go check out the review I had for this one. I'll leave a link for this right up here. You can check that out. But what we're going to be doing in this video is pretty much putting this one on the bench, breaking it down, comparing it to this, and then really discussing, is this radio the best one to buy if you're getting into drone racing? And we're going to be specifically talking about these sort of racing drones. So is this going to be the best radio to buy if you're just entering the hobby, or will this one be the better choice for you? So I'm going to give you a whole bunch of information. Hope you guys are ready. Let's stick it on the bench and get started. Alrighty, so here it is, and the first thing you're going to notice, look, it's a bit bigger, I guess. It's a little bit wider than what most people are used to with their standard Taranis, but it is also a little bit thinner. If we just have a bit of a look at the actual physical switches and buttons, you've got two little sort of the dialers, so that's what you call them, sliders. I'm not 100% sure what you call those things. Drop it in the comments down below anyway. What's the official name of these? You get 4 3-position switches, so you've got those across the top just here. You also get 2 switches on the back, so this one is a permanent switch. This one, look, this bugs me a little bit. That one is a temporary switch, so it's always going to spring back. That's annoying because that's what I'd use as my arm switch, but hopefully we can change that. Of course, you've got your 2 gimbals just here, which I must say feel very, very nice. I guess in my first little impressions, you've got your little trims right here, your on-off button. I guess we'll turn this on now and see how we go. You get a big, nice, bright screen right here, which I think is fantastic. We've got some throttle warnings, let's skip that. So you've got a pressable button, you can see just there, I use that to press some buttons. You've got your page and your menu, you enter, same sort of style as what you had, I guess same sort of function I should say as on the previous Taranis, but just a little bit more intuitive. And then you've got this really cool slider wheel as well right here, so hopefully I can go into something, there we go. So you can just slide around here. This is going to make it very, very easy rather than pressing the up and the down button. I think it's really, really cool that they've got this slider wheel. Now underneath you've got a couple little USB ports, which is very cool. Well, one USB port I should say, which is just here. And you've also got a micro SD card, which is very, very important because you actually use that SD card with this nice big beautiful speaker that we have right here. So that's a really good feature of the Taranis radios. You can put your voice pack on there. It doesn't come with an SD card. That's one little extra that you do have to buy. But you can use that voice pack and load it in here, and this radio will actually talk to you. You can get things like it's going to call out your voltage, you can call out your timers. There's a whole bunch of different, like critical warnings, a whole bunch of different little things you can get this radio set up to do that makes this a very, very useful radio, especially when you've got those goggles down. You can't see exactly what's on this screen because you're looking at FPV. It's great to have some of those automated voice readouts. Now on the top, of course, you've got your antenna right here, so that's right here, and we've also got a little jack for our headphones. Now if I flip it over, here's one of the biggest, best features I think that this has over the Turnigy Evolution. So the qx7 has this right here, and this was the same on its bigger brother, if I can get this open. This was the same on the normal Taranis, the X9D Plus, or whatever it was called. You've got that right here. This is the JR module, or the JR module bay, I should say. And the reason this is awesome is because these things make the radio so much more versatile. For example, if you want to fly around a tiny whoop or something like that, you will need one of these. Often you'll need something like this in the past to be able to connect up and fly, or the Blade Inductrix or whatever it is. If you wanted to fly that with your Taranis radio, you can hook this up to a whole bunch of different quads. So not just FreeSky, so not just using FreeSky receivers, you can actually use this JR module to sort of tell the controller to talk a different language to some other brands out there. So for example, if I wanted to use a TBS Crossfire, I could put this in here, and now this radio can talk to a Crossfire unit. So that is a massive advantage, especially if you've got a lot of different RC gear and a lot of different receivers. Having a JR module adds so much versatility. That is fantastic. That is something that is missing on the Turnigy Evolution. If the only thing you can fly with this is really the FlySky or the Turnigy Evolution radio systems. That is it. You're not going to be able to put in any JR modules or anything like that. So in this case, that's a big win for the qx7, and you really are future-proofing yourself for a lot of products that are going to come out. Now flipping it over, this is where it leads me into another part that I think is one of the best things for a lot of people out there who are into quads and into RC, but if you're into drone racing, I'm not sure how useful it's going to be. You might use it a little bit, but this thing runs I almost said OpenQX. This thing runs OpenTX, I should say. And what OpenTX, it's sort of like a little, what did you call it? Like a little operating system or a little way of programming this radio. You can set this thing up to do almost anything. So you can do things like automatic timeouts. You can get it to measure your voltage. There is so many, like that's just the very basic things. You can get this thing. It's like a mini computer in here. The firmware on here has so much potential to do so much cool stuff. To be honest, there's like whole schools on how to use OpenTX. I don't really know the slightest thing about it in terms of the deep programming, but I do know how to set up some basic things. Like my favorite one that I used to have on my old Taranis radio was I'd flick my arm switch. It would start my timer counting down and it would read out what time it was at every single minute. And then when I disarmed my radio, it would reset the timer so it was ready to go straight away. You can set up a lot of automatic things like that to just make your everyday flying around very, very easy. And if you were going to be flying some RC models or helis or something else that wasn't just specifically drone racing, this thing using OpenTX is hands down better than one of these. This thing is great for just drone racing, but anything more complicated where you really need to use some of the programming and the powers of a radio, that's where the QX is really going to come into its own because it's rocking that OpenTX software. Now here's one that's going to get half the people are going to say this is the better radio in terms of just this specific point. I'm not saying which one's best overall just yet, but I'm saying at this point, this one's going to divide a lot of people out there. So that's how does this radio actually feel in your hands? So, and what by that I mean ergonomically. How comfortable and natural does it feel? For me, this is what made me switch over from my original Taranis to this bad boy, because I was flying, this is the original Taranis here, I was flying with this and it felt so big, sort of like I was carrying something that was like out of the dark ages. I don't know why it has to be so big. I got to this thing felt like I was playing Xbox. It felt so much more at home for me, so much more natural in my hands, and especially because I fly with my thumbs on the sticks. That's why this radio, in my opinion, feels much more natural if you're a thumber. However, some people might disagree because we do have these little these little parts just here where you can use that to grip your radio and put your thumbs on right here. But if you're a pincher, I really think this radio feels comfortable if you're a pincher. The way you can sort of rest your pinky up behind here on this sort of part. You can rest your pinky, I really feel like, and you can hold the top of the radio. This almost feels, for me, almost feels comfortable. Like, I don't like pinching at all, and I've always flown with my thumbs, but if I was going to start and I wanted to train on being a pincher, this is the radio that I'd pinch. This is the radio that I would use. So if you're a pincher, hands down, the QX7 should be the radio for you. If you're into thumbs and you really care about how it feels in your hand, that's where the decisions get really tough, because in my opinion, if you're a thumber, that's where the evolution feels better in your hands. Now, not only how comfortable does it feel in your hand, let's also talk about the finish. So on this radio, I think overall it's just a nicer finish on this radio. The metals and the plastics feel a lot stronger, a lot better. On this one, it feels a little bit cheaper and a little bit more like a toy. So that's one thing. If I guess in terms of the feel of the actual quality of the radio, I think the QX7 again wins over this one right here. This one feels a little bit more like a toy, and especially the gimbals. These gimbals, they're a little bit softer. I know you can tighten them in both of these, but these gimbals don't feel quite as nice as these ones right here. Okie dokie, so now a big one. Looking at the QX7, this is where we're going to talk about the price difference between the two. So I believe this one's like between 120, 140 bucks depending on where you get it. This one here is between $60 and $70. So I'm talking US dollars right here, but that means that this radio is almost double this one. So if you're on the fence and you're not too sure, well, really, you can get two of these radios or one of these. So price, look, they're in the same sort of market, because I really think people should be investing in the radio that they want first time around when they get into this hobby, so they don't have to upgrade later. But in saying that, there's nothing wrong with spending the money on this cheaper radio if that's the one that you want. But that's just something to keep in mind. This radio is almost double the price of this one. But to throw a spanner in the works, this radio has been almost impossible for a lot of people to track down. You can only get this thing through Hobby King. This one There's places you can get this all over the net. You know, you can search for it. There's heaps of different links to heaps of different places you can get this from. This one's from Banggood, and you can see a link down below in the description. But you can get this radio virtually anywhere very, very quickly. Whereas this one seems to be on back order and only on like people on eBay who are selling it for a bit more money. So that's a little bit of a problem with the Evolution, where again the QX7 might be winning because in terms of accessibility, if you want to get into this hobby and you wanted to get into it now and you don't want to have to wait months or weeks, you can buy one of these today. Alrighty, and then finally, I guess we're going to be talking about the RF connection. So this is using the Frsky protocol, and I have never had an issue. And we are going to do a part 2 video where we do a bit of a range test, and we'll take this one out and directly verse it against this one. But I know for sure that the Frsky protocol is rock solid. People get tons and tons of range. It's probably the most popular protocol that's used out there. It's very, very reliable. You're not going to have dropouts or brownouts too much at all. And so Frsky has done a fantastic thing at keeping a really solid link between your radio and the quad. Now speaking of that, we do have this big antenna up the top here that's obviously pumping out your radio signal. You don't have that on here. So these two different radios right here, this one's going to be a lot more breakable if you're throwing it in your bag. I think this one's going to be a lot more durable, especially if you're putting it in your backpack. Look, you might have some special... I'm going to turn this off now. You actually turn it off to hold it. You hold down the button to turn it off. But this one, you might have a special little case that you can put it in and things like that. You know, and that might be great. That might be how you get around. But for me, I like to keep it simple, keep it light, and I'm flying around. I just want to throw some drones in a bag, my racing ones. They're pretty tough. All I have to do to put this in, I get this cool little plastic case. This thing's ready to rock and roll. I throw that in my backpack. It's ready to go. It's not taking up very much space at all. So this one's a lot easier to transport. This one's going to be a little bit more fragile. Alrighty, so they're probably the main things, and also to get up, get set, and get flying. This one is going to take a little bit more of an investment, so you probably need to buy an extra receiver to go with it as well, whereas I know the IA6C receiver comes with this one. This one auto binds to that, which is fantastic. I'm not sure, depending on what receiver, how the binding process actually goes on the QX7. And then finally, look at this. Both of these sticks are self-centered, so if you're just looking at drone racing, you're going to have to take this apart, take out the springs, and set one of these up so it stays in position like this. Well, this would be for mode 2 anyway. So I'm going to need to take out one of the springs of this. So that might be something you don't want to do. You might not feel comfortable taking apart a radio. Look, it shouldn't be too hard, but you know, that's just one little extra step to be mindful of. If you're really scared about that, you don't have to do that on the Evolution, but you do have to do it on the QX7. So overall, look, it's a really tough choice. This one's double the price, but it's got heaps of features, and overall, I think it is a better radio, except for how it feels in your hand, which is a massive part for me. How comfortable and how natural does it feel in here? So it's a really tough choice, and I don't know if I can make that call. It's very, very difficult. Regardless of whatever one you get, I think people are going to be very, very happy with either of these, especially for drone racing. Like that's what these two radios are aimed at, and they both do their job very, very well. Rightio, so there it is. There's my review, or my part 1 review anyway, of the Taranis QX7. And is this the best first-time radio when you're getting into the hobby? Is this the one that I'm going to say you should go out and buy? You know what? I actually can't make my mind up. Like, I love my Turnigy Evolution. I love the price of this thing. I think for like the $60 or $70, whatever this thing is, you can't beat it. And I love how it feels in my hand. It just feels so ergonomic and comfy. But after reviewing this and looking at the features that you get, like it is a little bit more expensive for, you know, it is about $130, $140, and you've got to get that receiver and that sort of stuff. But running OpenTX, that's really important to a lot of people. The JR module, and not to, you know, which is going to be very, very useful if you're going to be flying a whole bunch of different quads out there. And then also the rock solid Frsky protocol. I don't know, like the toss-up between these two is a very, very close. So time's going to tell which one I'm going to switch to, but hopefully the information given in this video is going to help you make up your mind to find out exactly what radio is going to be right for you, because they're very, very different, but they both do their job very, very well. So it's a very tough call to make. Ergonomic versus more features, more expensive, cheaper. It's a little bit of a toss-up actually. Anyway, hopefully you guys like that. If you did, definitely hit that like button, because that's one of the best things you can do to help support this UAVfutures channel. But other than that, subscribe for more FPV related content, and as always, happy flying. There it is. There's my review of the Taranis. I almost said Turnigy. You are lucky I caught that one. Alrighty, so hopefully you guys enjoyed that video. Definitely subscribe if you're new to the channel and check out these videos. And I'm also going to leave a little link here to my Patreon page because I've got some fantastic Patreon supporters and I like to give back to them as well. So if you want to join the UAVfutures family, there's things like bonus Velcro straps, little bundles of FPV goodies and things like that that also get sent out. Anyway, happy flying.